What is up, all you beautiful people? Today we'll be talking about a very important concept that you need to be able to have, you as a business owner need to be able to understand, especially if you're running a business, especially if you own a business, especially if you're the founder, especially the CEO, manager, whatever the F you are. You need to be able to do this because realistically, this isn't every business. And this makes the difference between a business succeeding or not. And it comes down to the simple fact of, do your numbers make sense? A simple profit and loss statement. Okay. Those are in every single businesses. My first business that I've ever had, my first business that I ever had was selling candy in middle school. And I would do it one of two ways. The first way is I would do some basic math. I would go to the local 5 and 10, which is basically a dollar store, get candy. I spend $10 on a bag that might give me like 100 pieces of a Jolly Ranchers. I'll sell each Jolly Rancher at 50 cents each, meaning I profit $50, but my expenses are $10. I'm making $40 from that bag. So what I'm trying to say is, do your numbers add up? A lot of people really run e-commerce stores. Okay, let me give you one example. My buddy, he had an e-commerce store. I wonder if I have an example of what he sold here, because it's on my key, but I left my keys downstairs. It doesn't matter. But pretty much he sold this little bracelet. Okay, it's a little bracelet. Do I have one here? No, I do not. But he sold this little bracelet. Okay, he would make himself. What he had to do is he add up those costs, because he has costs, all right, like materials, building that bracelet. So materials, building that bracelet, he had delivery costs. Okay. He had advertising expenses, and then he still needs to make a profit at the end of the day. So he had to be able to understand how much money he was able to spend on ads to be able to bring home a positive ROAS, return on ad spend. He had to understand how much each bracelet costs to make, deliver, and ship, and spend on ads before he was able to profit. If you're selling it for $50 a bracelet and he's spending $40 in material, shipping, and everything, and then he spent another $10 in shipping, he's really just breaking even. And at that point, I hope you're using Amex cards so you can at least get the points on those, which is really cool, because turns out, actually, let me break it down. There's two types of people that I know that do like drop shipping. Okay. I'm talking about big ballers. I'm not talking about the guy that spends maybe like $50 a day. I'm talking about the guy who spends like $1,000 a day. And there's two types of people that spend more than at least $500 a day. The two types of people. First type of person that is just barely breaking even, and he spends all that money, puts an American Express card, and he's able to like travel the world for free because he spends a whole lot of money on the American Express card, but he's just barely breaking even on it. He doesn't really care because he's traveling the world for free because he spends so much money on his American Express card, Whereas the second person that is, I'm not going to want to say it takes it more seriously, but actually runs the numbers, okay, understands how much he's able to spend on advertising to make his products profitable. And yeah, he spends a lot of money on his American Express card, but he's actually able to make that profitable. And honestly, I'm not going to lie to you, I don't know a lot of people that are able to make drop shipping and e-commerce really that profitable, knowing that if you're drop shipping from like China, it's like a 2-week period for the stuff to get over here. So most people do like some sort of fulfillment center, okay, where they have a massive amount of storage, or I know another person that does like pre-sales kind of, but shipping it from there to here, plus the cost of the product, the materials to make the stuff, fulfill it, and all that stuff, it adds up. And then you got to spend advertising on top of that. Like, you're really cutting your costs and your revenue really pretty close. So you really need to have a crazy ROAS, return on ad spend, to really make that profitable. Okay. Let me give you a couple other examples of running your numbers, based upon what I have here. I recently started another company over here, and it's just pieces fall right now. I partnered up with one of my neighbors, and he's a really good friend. He just recently bought at least 70 acres of land. Okay, massive property. But I partnered up with him because we realized that it's firewood season. Fall is firewood season, and Everybody needs firewood. As you guys already know, or you might already know, I have a online community that's in my community. I have an online Facebook group that consists of my entire community of where I live. And everybody's on there is constantly like, yo, I need firewood. Where can I get firewood? Blah, 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 blah. So what I decided to do is open up a quick little firewood delivery business with one of my buddies. Okay. And pretty much the first thing that we had to do is realistically just run the freaking numbers. Okay. Whereas over here, so over here we have, like, for example, who chopped, who stacked, who delivered, who stacked and delivery, client payout, chop pay, chop pay if he were to chop and I were to chop, stack pay, delivery pay, expenses, and overall profits for the company. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is that the first thing that we did in that business is we ran the numbers on how much we were able to like spend, how much we were able to hire out, how many portions of the business we were able to hire out to still make it profitable. Whereas, we hired out the chopping, we hired out the delivery, we hired out all that stuff, and then we got to run our numbers. We got to understand how much we're paying people to chop, how much we're paying people to deliver, and we still got to run the numbers to still make that profitable for us to be able to. Otherwise, what's the point of having that business? It's just a charity, So if you're paying at so and so $15 an hour to chop the wood with that splitter, you're paying another person $30 an hour to actually deliver this, or pay them on a retainer. Whereas every time they deliver, we pay them $50. It all cuts down to our profits. So if they're chopping, let's say we spend on a cord. Let's say we sell a cord for $240. Okay, or it's $200. Just to make numbers easy. But we still had to pay somebody $50 to chop. We had to pay somebody another $50 to deliver. That's $100 worth of expenses. We're only profiting $100 for the company, and then we got to divide that by 2 people. So me $50, him $50, or we can just put it in a pool in the company. We can divvy that up later. What I'm trying to say is that if we didn't run these numbers first, we could have been paying the delivery driver, I don't know, $100. Could have been paying the chopping guy another $100, and then we're not going to be profitable. We're just barely breaking even. It doesn't make too much sense. And that's everything. My crypto company, our crypto company, we have 4 other guys in this, Valify, we're putting together this DEX called Fusion Swap. And in this Fusion Swap, the first thing that we had to do is we had to run the numbers. So at a certain 24-hour volume, so let's say of transactions, let's say we are getting, I don't know, $100,000 worth of volume in this DEX every 24 hours, every day, I guess. The $100,000, how much would that $100,000 make Fusion Swap? How much would that $100,000 will make the liquidity pool providers? So we had to understand, we had to run those numbers. We had to run those because every transaction doesn't have to be charged a transaction fee of anywhere between like 0.2 to even 0.6%. I know other examples. I don't want to say specific names. They charge like 0.6%. They charge even 0.8% per transaction, which is actually, I do believe that's a very high number. But I'm trying to say is you have to run the numbers. Okay. It's like, let's say our DEX, you have to run the numbers. So our DEX, let's say the transaction fee is 3.3%. Okay. The liquidity providers gets 0.2, whereas the actual Fusion Swap, the treasury and buybacks gets 0.1. Okay. We have to understand, like, is that still worth it for the liquidity providers to invest into here? Is it still worth it for us to do this? Because will Fusion Swap really make that much money? We got to understand all those numbers. Okay. Another example over here. Let me show you an Excel sheet over here. For my software company over here. Another one over here we got is for my software company. What we have to understand here is we want to add 2 new features onto Funnel Hacker Lab. Actually, I have a massive list of features that I want to add to Funnel Hacker Lab. But within this year, within this time period right now, there's 2 primary things that I want to be able to add to Funnel Hacker Lab based upon feedback that I've been receiving. One thing that I want to add is a tracker, a tracking system. We're already implement. We already have a lot of this already down, but we want to be able to implement. We want to finalize this, okay? And pretty much what Tracker is going to do is you put a pixel onto the page, and you're able to understand where the conversions are coming from. This way, you can optimize your ads, okay? This way, you're able to properly track your ad, track like if it's coming from TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Google, and what specific ads are performing better, so you can make optimizations based upon that understanding. So we have a tracker over here. Okay. Now, the way I see this is that we can charge people for using this tracker per website visitor. So if somebody's using our tracker and they have, let's say, 10,000 website visitors on their page every single day, I might be able to charge them, $100 a month. Whereas if they have 100,000 website visitors per day, I might be able to charge them 200, maybe $500 a month. I don't know. I'm just throwing out numbers here, for example. Okay. For everything else, I'm just throwing out numbers. All right. So what I'm trying to say is that this right at the back is going to increase my revenue. And whereas this other thing, this application feature, pretty much is a complete overhaul of the actual application, all right, the actual membership portal to make it run a lot smoother, make it look a lot better, and to make it just overall easier and quicker to use. So, and also it puts it onto Node.js, which is a new type of software, a new platform to make everything just a lot easier. So in the future, we can add features on here with a lot more ease of use, because currently everything's on HTML Bluehost, on the servers of Bluehost, which is actually a lot slower, and it's kind of like older technology, whereas you want to upgrade it to newer, faster, better, safer, secure technology, which in the future is going to make it a lot easier to add more features onto it. So the benefits of this, everything's running quicker, but it's not going to drastically, right at the back, bring us a lot of more revenue to the company. And as my job as the owner, founder of Funnel Hacker Labs, the guy that's primarily just in charge of making the company more money, I need to be able to understand, all right, cool. The tracker, yeah, that's right off the bat is going to bring me more revenue. But the application is going to make it a better customer experience, thereby getting me more referrals and thereby increasing the lifespan per member, okay? I mean, yeah, the tracker might increase the lifespan per member, but the application by making it easier, I think that's going to increase it a lot more, okay? Just by making it easier to use, and it's going to help us get more referrals if people like using the app a lot easier, if everything's a little quicker. So pretty much what I'm trying to say is that I need to understand both pros and cons. I need to be able to add some sort of estimated numbers to both pros and cons. This way, when I add numbers, I'm able to make a better decision on what exactly I want. Because I can't realistically, if I just add like, look, this tracker adds more revenue right up front. All right. If I compare that to here, this adds more revenue throughout time. I can't really make a decision on what I want based upon those two pieces of just pros and cons. What I need to be able to do is, all right, based upon, all right, we got 100 members on Funnel Hacker Labs. Each member, if 30% of the members use it, 30 people use it, out of the 30 people, each one is receiving, I don't know, 1,000 website visitors a day. That's 30,000. 30,000 times an extra, I don't know, $20 a month per person, 30 times 20, 60, add the zeros, 6000, 6,000 a month, something like that, Whereas this one over the application over here, if that increased the lifespan of a member by an extra 6 months, 6 months times $67 a month, that increases by X amount. How much money I'm really making for this. Pretty much, long story short, how much money is this going to make me compared to this one? Is realistically how I make those decisions. Okay. So enough of really that. I hope you understand what I'm talking about there. It's kind of, I feel like it's kind of like simple common knowledge that we don't want to run the numbers because maybe the numbers could scare us, or we don't want to, or I don't know, or maybe we're just hesitant on running the numbers. But what I'm really trying to say is that business comes down to numbers. Okay, at the end of the day. At the end of the day, it comes down to numbers. Regardless if you have 1 0 after that, regardless if you have 6 zeros after that, 7 zeros after that, all comes down to understanding and running numbers. And that's how you truly scale. That's how you really truly scale. Like, let's say you have this ad over here that every single time you put $10 in, it gets you a $60 sale. So you're making $50. Cool. Now put $100 in, $600. Put $1,000 in, $6,000. That's what I'm trying to say. Is you got to understand those numbers. But realistically, I mean, if you're talking about ads there, I hope you guys watch my other video on scaling ads, because it talks a lot more about how specifically those numbers work out on ads. Because it's not directly like that. Because as you add more ad spend onto it, you're gonna start to realize that the cost per result is going to start to drive up as well too, as you increase ad spend. So I made another video on how to combat that completely. So look it up, how to scale ads on my YouTube channel. Hopefully that should help you guys. Or if you guys have questions, comment down below. You guys know I'm always happy to help you guys out with that. And as always, guys, I want to thank you guys for watching. Hopefully this helped. Hopefully you guys get a good understanding of how to really just scale your business by utilization of just understanding your numbers. Because that's what I've learned at a very young age. You know, like I said, ever since I was selling candy in middle school, that's what I've been doing. So I understand it. You know, it just makes sense to me. But hopefully, guys, that helps you guys a lot. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you at that top. Peace out, guys.